All right, this is, I think, March 28th and Saturday morning, and I wanted to do a quick video for my fellow business owners. And I know many of you guys are struggling. I'm an attorney, and so I get phone calls daily now, people just wanting to know about what's going to happen. And I run a small business myself, and so I've been paying attention to what's going on, and I will tell you this is going to get a lot worse than it currently is. And we just need to buckle down. But luckily, Congress was on top of things on this one part of everything, and they have gone to great lengths to protect the American people from a total economic collapse. And I want to go through and read this actual the actual law. I prefer to go to the actual law so we can actually see what the rules are the best we can. I will make a high recommendation. Yesterday, a good friend of mine, Dave Wilson here, he and a bunch of other gentlemen got together and they did this live SBA loan for your business. They do about an hour podcast here, and they did a fantastic job with what the information they knew. Now, the law had not passed it. I think it passed the House while they were actually doing this. So the information, I think some of it is incorrect. Once the final bill was signed, they said some things that, as I've read through, just don't seem right, but 99% of it seems correct. So I would highly recommend watching this right now and paying attention to different things. You can go to this guy's page, KILN, and watch their videos. They did a fantastic job, and I highly encourage that. But let's actually go to the bill. Try not to take up your whole morning here. So the way that this is going to work is they're going to do it through the 7A SBA loan program. If you've never gotten an SBA loan, you will have to do this through your bank. So you will call up your bank on Monday or Tuesday and start getting the process rolling. I imagine this is going to take at least a month to roll out before you'll see any money. So whatever you're doing, you're budgeting, you got to figure out how to pay your employees for the next month. And so what this is saying right here in this section, the cover term. So this is going to cover from March 1st to 2020, ending December 31st, 2020. So that's how long this extended 7A loan program is supposed to go on for. There's going to be different date periods and cover periods for different things, like the forgiveness period is different than this, but it's important to understand that you can apply during this time period for this loan. So if you've applied for an SBA loan already, a lot of people have applied for the disaster relief program. That is a different program. You might want to keep it. You might want to back out of it. But if you did that through the SBA directly, go to your bank, get with the SBA loan officer or credit union or whoever you want to use for your SBA. Start talking to them about what needs to get done. Okay. So during the cover period, this covers any business, a private nonprofit organization or public nonprofit organization which employs not more than 500 employees. Okay. So that's going to be some confusion for, well, what if we're a bunch of companies together and tied together? And I think Dave Wilson brings that up in the video, and it's something that needs to be looked into and understood better. But I would apply anyway if I was trying to figure out what was going on. They have an exclusion here for for nonprofits that are covered under different acts. All right, and so during the cover period, with respect to any loan guarantee under Section 7A, which an application is approved or pending approval, or after the date of the enactment of the act, the maximum loan amount shall be the less of. Now we're going to go through a calculation here. And it's very important to follow along, because whenever you're reading a code, they're often very confusing. The product obtained by multiplying. So you can get a loan for the average total monthly payments by the applicant for payroll, mortgage payments. Now that's mortgage payments through your business, not your personal mortgage payments. Rent payments, payments of any other debt obligation occurred during the 1 year period before the date on which the loan is made. So you're going to have to go back, get your accounting in order, go back from the date that you apply 1 year, add up those items. You're going to have to provide evidence of that. The SBA is going to want actual documentation that that's what you paid. Okay. And then we're going to take that, all that, and we're going to divide it by 4. Okay. Or sorry, you get 4 times the monthly amount, whatever. So take the average of all, times it by 4. That's what your loan amount is going to be. So if you've had a big increase in business at the end part, which, you know, I had a big ramp up last year in the fall. So that's going to be some concerns because my payroll got considerably higher towards the end of last year. And a lot of people experience that. A lot of people have been telling me their businesses were doing amazing. They've never done so well before in their life. But you can't get more than $10 million because then we're getting a little out of control here. So they've capped it at that amount. And so that is basically what they're going to give to you. Now notice it's a loan, okay? It has to be paid back. There is a forgiveness option in this. Now I'm not gonna go through this other parts in here, but I do wanna go through some of it. Okay, allowable uses on the loan program. Okay, what are we gonna use this for? It's payroll support. The purpose of this is the idea that we wanted to get money to small business to make their payroll to stay in business. You are going to end up having to pay some of this loan back. As small businesses, you are asked to take on the burden of this crisis on your own shoulders, and you're just going to have to do it. Like, I realized that this is what I was going to have to do, and so I had to stop paying myself so I could pay my employees for the time period. And I'm going to probably highly encourage you to have a conversation with your spouse about cutting your pay and paying employees during this time. Okay, you'll want to start paying yourself a certain amount, but we'll get to that in just a second. This includes paid sick leave, medical leave, or family leave, and costs related to the continuation of group health insurance benefits, okay? Employee salaries, mortgage payments, rent, utilities, and any other debt obligations that were incurred during the cover period, okay? So I don't think the code was written very well because we'll get down in here, and I think the forgiveness is also supposed to be on the certain payments that are made for rent and stuff like that, or debt obligations that were from before last year. So if you just recently took out a loan, like I have, I've taken out a couple of loans in order to cover certain things. Those are not going to be covered under this, okay? And then it's going to get in here to a lot of things that I don't think are that important. I need to get to the next part, which is, okay, this is another part that if you want to understand this fee waivers, sorry, this is actually important. You're not supposed to be charging any fees to do this. We're asking small businesses to carry on this and get their employees paid. And so they're not going to charge you for doing this. Deferment of your 7A loan. So it is deferred, okay? They said it was going to be deferred for up to a year, so you won't have to start making repayments, but you will be charged interest during that year. Don't forget that. The government will always charge you interest. We're not here to, not make money off of you. Okay, and we're going to get down here. This is to entrepreneurial development. This is has to do with the people that are going to be extending the loans, grants that are going to be offered. This is something interesting. If you watch Dave Wilson's video, they talk about the disaster relief where you can get $10,000. You're supposed to get it within 10 days to help you fund things. So you might want to apply for that and then convert it over into the 7A loan. They're going to take out that $10,000 that they gave you to fund things, but it will get you some cash immediately if you need 10 grand, okay? All right, this is just more stuff for development centers. We want to get down here to the next part, which is going to be really important for small business owners because I was asked some questions about this yesterday. Loan forgiveness. Okay, so because the whole economy has been destroyed, and we all recognize that it is definitely not small businesses' fault. It is not small, there's arguments made that large corporations should have had more cash on hand for a time like this. Small businesses aren't expected to do that because they just don't generate enough money to do that. So under this term, the 7A loan, anything that's during the cover period. Now notice this cover period is different. So they're saying from March 1st to the end of June 30th. So 4 months, the 4 months that you are making payments, we are going to cover your payroll costs. All right. But your payroll costs don't include something very important. The compensation of an individual employee in excess of $333,000. Well, now it's like, why that number? That means anybody that makes $100,000 a year or more. Okay, you're not going to be forgiven their pay. And the way I'm reading this is 100% you don't get forgiven their pay. So if you have employees that are making over $100,000 a year, you're going to have a conversation with them if you want this to be forgiven to take a pay cut right now. And so I've already actually had that conversation with one of my employees. He was more than willing to take a little bit of a cut here to help out other people. Now, there's 2 other programs that were enacted. I know nothing about these. I believe you get these reimbursed through your taxes, but anybody that's paid for a qualified sick leave or family leave, these 2 things are saying, hey, you already have a benefit somewhere else to get these paid. We're not going to cover you here. We're not going to forgive that amount. We don't want no double dipping happening here. Okay. An eligible recipient shall be eligible for forgiveness of the indebtedness on a covered 7A loan. Remember that 7A loan is an SBA loan. It's been around for a long time. In amount equal to the cost of maintaining payroll continuity. I'm having a hard time this morning. Sorry, guys. I should be able to do that. But during the cover period. So it's saying right here that we're just going to forgive payroll, but it gets a little confusing when I went down below here just a minute ago. So if you don't pay anybody, if nobody over 100,000, but anybody under $100,000, we're going to forgive for the next 4 months that loan that you received. Now, you might not get enough to pay everybody. Think about that for a second, because let's say you ramped up and hired a bunch of people at the end of the year. Well, they averaged all last year. So you might not get enough money to cover everybody during the time period. So be very aware of that you might not get enough to cover everybody, but you only get payroll forgiveness. That's all we're going to say. We got to keep people employed. All right, treatment of amounts forgiven. Okay, amounts which are forgiven. Okay, this is just basically saying how they will term it. They're not going to penalize you in any way for the amount that is forgiven. It's considered like a grant, that you were given a grant. Okay, limits on the amount. Okay, the amount of loan forgiveness under the section for eligible recipients shall not exceed the sum of. Now this is where it gets confusing because it only said payroll, but it adds something else here. The total amount of payroll costs incurred by eligible recipients during the cover period and the amount of payments made during the cover period on debt obligations that were incurred before the cover period. Okay, and so I mean. Of course, I'm not an expert on SBA, so I don't understand up here why it's only payroll, but yet it won't be. It's limited to also debt obligations. I imagine there's some other program in here that I just don't know about, or some other way that this is worked out. But your bank will be able to help you do this. Okay. Now here's some biggies. So let's say you fire some people, let people go. Well, they're going to ding you for this. Okay. And you need to read through this second part here and know how much you're going to be dinged for doing that. Okay. I would not trust the people that you're going to call at the SBA are going to know this. I don't think anybody knows exactly how much you're going to be dinged unless you've read the code and really think it through. Write it out, write your own. Okay. I've already laid out these people. You might want to call them back up and hire them back if you already have. Okay. Calculations on average number of employees. Okay, so that's how they're going to do it. A reduction, because there's always a conversation, people laying people off and employing spouses. I would not engage in any type of fraud. Okay, don't mess with this. Don't mess with the federal government. Run the program like it is. what is the general idea? The general idea is pay your employees and we will forgive the loan. Don't lay them off. And then right here, reduction of pay. If you reduce their pay by more than 25%, we're going to ding you. So the only people you should be thinking about reducing pay are people who make over $100,000 a year. And in here, they're bringing this up, okay? If somebody's making over $100,000 a year, you're going to want to bring them below $100,000 a year for the next, for at least the next 4 months. So dentists, this is looking at yourselves, your partners, different people like that. You're gonna, attorneys, that's going to be hit big. Okay. An eligible recipient seeking loan forgiveness under the section shall submit to the lender that originated this. So you don't just automatically get forgiven. You got to apply for the forgiveness. Documentation verifying the number of full-time equivalent employees on payroll and the pay rate for the periods. So you got to have all this ready after this is all said and done. The payroll tax is filed and reported to the Internal Revenue Service, state payroll income, payroll, and unemployment insurance filings, financial statements verifying payment of debt obligations incurred before. So this is where, again, I think you're also going to be forgetting your debt obligations like rent and different things. I think that's what the intent was. Okay, and we're going to have it certified. If you don't provide the documentation, then you're not going to be able to do it. So this is going to be hard for a lot of businesses, a lot of guys out there that just don't keep good records. You're going to struggle if you don't get this in order. So if I could take a moment to kind of help you figure out what you need to get in order. Right now, the most important thing is, how are you going to pay your employees while this is processing? It's going to take time. So you got about a month that you got to cover things. So think it through. There are different options out there. There are different ways to cover. You can go to different lending programs. You can go in 10 days, you're supposed to get the $10,000 from the disaster relief program. So if that's not, if you need 10 grand, that will help you right there. But a lot of people have very, very high payroll, and so that's going to be very difficult on them. Watch Dave Wilson's little conference that they did that will help you out a lot, but get your paperwork in order. And the key here is to understand, do not defraud the government, okay? This is a gift given to small businesses to keep this system going while we shut everything down, and take it seriously. Don't try to read through this and try to figure out, well, how can I take advantage of this, and how can I take advantage of this, and what can I do? Now, there's the other questions like, what if you're a sole proprietor? What if you're a real estate agent? If you're a real estate agent, you probably don't have yourself on payroll. You're probably paying yourself like a 1099. I imagine that this applies to people who pay themselves a 1099 check too. I'm imagining that's true. But the problem is what if you make over $100,000 a year? What if you end up making more than $33,333 during this time period? Well, it seems to suggest here that you won't be covered. So if I was a real estate agent or a financial advisor, somebody, I would become an S Corp, start paying myself payroll, and then accounting for everything. So when I apply for this loan to get help and assistance, I can use that to show what I need, and then I can get the forgiveness. But the key here is keep your employees for the next 4 months. Keep the system going, pay them. Now, if you notice, you might have extra money at sometime towards the end of June that you took out as a loan. You might want to consider at the end of June bonusing employees, making sure you don't pay them more than that $33,333. but bonusing them out, the loan amount, to get more money out into your employees' hands and to help them. That should help the economy. That should help them. But you can get a bigger loan forgiveness versus just having the loan there. I guess you could repay the loan if you wanted to too. But if I was going to do this, the money, the government wants to get the money in the hands of the people. You send it back to the government, it doesn't help the economy right now. By all things that I'm seeing out there right now, this thing is not going to be resolved in 3 months, 4 months. This is going to be year to 2 years, maybe 3 or maybe even a decade of a disaster. So you need to be aware, pay attention, and get what you need to get done and get it in order. But this should help you guys out as best you can. Like I said, go watch that video. Once again, let me find it here and pull it up for you right here. This is a good one. These guys did a really good job putting this together. Thanks, Dave. You're a good guy.